want to welcome everybody and thank you for coming out, and welcome to Unity in Chicago for our discussion of the energies of this fall, 2017. I like to start every talk with some statements about astrology and what I feel astrology is, and then we'll get into discussion of today's new moon and the new moon chart, and then we'll talk about Friday's equinox energy and the equinox chart. And talking about those two charts will give us a way in to talking about a lot of the energy that's expressing this fall. As usual, there's quite a lot going on and we can't get to everything. But if we approach it from this way, we'll get a good feel for a lot of what is expressing and what that means for us. I like to, primarily when I give these talks, unless I advertise otherwise, kind of keep the talks about us as individuals. Like what types of experiences might this stir up for us as individuals, as opposed to the political scene or global events on another level, because that will get us going in a direction that we might not be able to find our way back. So those are, usually I reserve those types of comments for other discussions, so I hope I don't accidentally lapse into those, because then it might be hard to kind of circle back and get on point. Because for me, above all else, astrology is an experiential language. So it's for us to help us pay more attention and have more awareness about what we're experiencing. The more we know about the language, the more we hear it spoken, the more facility we can have with that. And so I will use astrology language tonight, knowing that there aren't really any hardcore pros in here that I don't think we have any hardcore professional astrology people here. So I will translate. So don't worry if you hear me using language that you're not comfortable with, maybe let it wash over you. I'll be sure to translate with plenty of English language words, and then I can follow up and send anybody who's on the email list slides at the end that'll recapture this, so you don't have to try to grab a hold of everything desperately. And in some cases, I won't strictly adhere to what's on the slides. You know, I may talk a little bit off point. I know in past discussions, if I miss one point on the slide, somebody was raising their hand and saying, "What about that one?" So I may not, get to every single thing that's on the slide, so you don't have to worry about that either, because you can have copies of the slides. So, is that clear? We're going to do some introductory language, and then the two major charts that will incorporate a lot of the major transits that are expressing right now. So for me, what I say astrology is the archetypal language of the soul. It's the way we can understand the language of our soul. And it's a language that helps us understand our intimate connections with a living universe. So it is a living language, and these energies are living. They're not stagnant. They're not set in stone. For me, listening to the astrology language is like listening to a symphony of cosmic music that's already playing all around us. It's inside of us, and we're already in tune with it, and we're already dancing with it. So it's a language that is available to us, whether we know how to speak it or not. It's always there. It's always expressing. It's a language of interrelatedness that helps us understand how we are the universe expressing itself through a human nervous system. So it's, hi, welcome, come on in. If you don't mind signing in over here, we're just doing our introduction right now. So I'll just repeat that. Astrology is a language that helps us know more about how we're hardwired in this lifetime, and how we are an expression of the universe expressing itself through a human nervous system. It shows us what tools and challenges and opportunities our soul, or each individual soul, has chosen to emphasize in this lifetime. For me, that's a lot of what this is and why it's valuable and why it's useful to know about. So, how it works in a general way is that the same intelligence that created us also created the heavens and all of our brother and sister energies in the solar system. So the planets are not in charge. I know back in the day some folks would fear that, oh, astrologers are trying to say the planets are making me do this or making me do that or forcing me to give up my free will, which of course is not how it works. They are a reflection of our energy. They reflect our energy back to us. So when we look up into the solar system, it's more like looking into a giant cosmic mirror. And so if we're doing this, then the planets are doing this. If we're doing that, you know those old comedy with Lucille Ball or whatever, if we're doing that, then something of theirs going on that's doing something very similar. We should be able to see similar energies expressing as what we're experiencing. So if we start paying attention to our experience and relating it to the planets and back and forth, it's like really just being mirrored back and forth. So they're really useful tools in that way because we do know in advance where the planets are going to be and what their movements are going to be. So we can learn more in advance what certain cycles are likely to be coming, what types of experiences they're likely to stimulate, which is super useful if you want to tune into that. It's not about though predicting events based on those energies that are expressing. We know the energies, we know the themes, we know the range of the archetypes that they tend to correlate with the most, but we don't know, well, what does that mean on such and such a day, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. I mean, we can get pretty good at understanding certain types of things, but I think we know from events lately, there's a lot of unpredictability, there's a lot of freedom of choice, and still when we look at what's expressing here on Earth, when we look up, we're like, oh yeah, that's what's going on up there too. It's not like there's something going on here that isn't going on in the planets or vice versa. So you ought to be able to see a correlation there. And each planet represents unique archetypes of human experience. And these archetypes have been observed over many millennia, going back to at least like ancient Babylon. So in the same way, sometimes people, I've been asked, in a lot of ways, scientists don't know how to account for what electrons do or why they do it yet. They don't understand, like, why does a single isolated electron in a, separated area in a laboratory move when a human being walks in? Why does it respond to a human presence? Scientists don't know. They just observe that it does happen. They can observe what does happen, even though they're like, we don't really know how that single isolated electron knew somebody walked in, but every time somebody walks in, the electron responds. So there's stuff going on that we don't always know the mechanics of what is causing these types of archetypes to express, but we've been observing them for millennia. So, and also in quantum physics, the scientists tell us that everything is connected to everything else. Now, on an individual level, at the moment that you were born, you breathed in your first breath, and you breathed in the cosmic imprint for our solar system, and maybe more, but for astrology purposes, we limit ourselves to the discussion of what's going on in our solar system when we're born. And I today will be only referring to the sun and the moon and then planets out to dwarf planet Pluto. I won't be talking about asteroids and other things that we can also look at as astrologers. It's too complicated. And so that moment you breathe in the cosmic imprint, and you carry that imprint with you throughout this lifetime. But that imprint is still alive, and it's alive in you. It's not like, even though those patterns are your patterns for this lifetime, it doesn't mean that you're locked into them. They're living, breathing patterns that you get to inhabit, and you get to express, and you get to learn with and evolve with. And the more consciousness you bring to it, certain energies can express across a range. You're not locked into, oh gosh, I'm a Taurus, so I'm always stubborn, and that's it, that's the end of my story, so, 90 years and there's nothing else to talk about. It's just not that, like, trying to stereotype people. And I don't do it. I don't do it at parties or whatever. People say, what can you tell me about Scorpios? And I'm like, a lot. All kinds of stuff. But it's not cool, in my opinion, as an astrologer to, like, label people or try to fix those energies in stone. Because they're living, breathing energies, and on different days they can express in different different ways, and yet they still honor their style. You know, red is still red, even though it can have many, many, many shades or many, many colors or variations. And in percentages, like I might have way more of a percentage of a certain energy in my chart than someone else has, and that's part of what makes us all different. So, I think that's good for now, for an introduction, so we can get rolling, kind of set the tone a little bit. So for those of you who don't know, we did have a new moon today at 12:30 in the morning. And it was in the sign of Virgo, so we're going to be talking a lot about Virgo. We're also going to be talking a lot about Libra energy, because that has a lot to do with the equinox, and we're going to be talking a lot about Scorpio energy tonight as well. And these are what I consider to be the major remaining energies that are expressing this fall, the major ones. But there's always more going on than that. You know, the inner planets are moving around, stirring things up on a regular basis. But these are the major remaining energies. So we've got the fall equinox on Friday. Of course, there's a new and full moon every 2 weeks. We've got the winter solstice on December 21st. Jupiter opposite Uranus is finishing up its really significant transit. Is what we call, you know, a period of time where energy is expressed, when planets relate with one another. So Jupiter moving in opposition to Uranus in the sky is called a transit. It's just a tiny movement. It's a cycle. Then Saturn has been moving in relation to Uranus. The Saturn conjunct the galactic center. We had like an hour-long discussion about that this summer. It is on the blog, so if you want to hear more about that, you can hear a full discussion about, well, what does that mean, Saturn conjunct the galactic center. It will have its last major imprint on November 22nd. Jupiter and Saturn are relating near the galactic center. That's pretty cool. Jupiter's moving into Scorpio in October. That should be October 10th. And Saturn is moving into Capricorn for the first time since 1991. The major ones that we're talking about tonight are Jupiter in Scorpio and Jupiter opposite Uranus. And we'll see, and like I said, the Saturn conjunct the galactic center is on the website, and we're doing the fall equinox and tonight's new moon. And trust me, a lot of this will be rolled in. But you can see this is like way too much to go into. At any given time in astrology, there's kind of way too much information. But this is, all of this, if you have your own chart done, which is the best way to understand how these energies expressing relate to you. Astrologers will look at all of that, and they'll look at your chart and what you were born with, and then how this, all that stuff is relating to you and interacting with your chart and your energy, and how that stirs up possibilities or potential challenges as well. So the reason why it's cool to get together at the time of a new moon is because it's a reboot, it's a new beginning. The moon and the sun come together in the sky and we start a new month. And we can set intentions for that month, and we can see them progress throughout the month and then sort of close out at the end of the month. And the chart of that moment of the new moon gives us a lot of information about what's cooking this month. And for those of you who aren't aware, the solar eclipse this summer on July 21st was a new moon. It was a new moon solar eclipse. So that was a new 30-day cycle that has been having repercussions all over the place since then, because it was also an eclipse. And I cannot believe it's only been a month since that happened. You know, one of the things that happens with eclipse energy is time gets distorted. And it wobbles, and we experience it going really, really fast sometimes and really, really slow, or almost both at the same time, if that can happen. But we have these weird experiences of time. That's one of the major expressions of eclipse energy. And I know I cannot believe it's only been a month since that. I'm saying it out loud, feeling like I must be wrong and I should be embarrassed. Like they know that it was really 6 months ago, but somehow I got that wrong. That's like how much I can't believe it was only a month ago. And then of course it's other energies move through the zodiac, they will activate, as we talked about in the eclipse talk, all that information is available online from that talk, they'll activate that eclipse point. So we just now today basically finished with planets moving through that eclipse point, and now we're in the Virgo time of year. So even though the sun moved into Virgo like August 21st, August 22nd, again I'm saying that, saying no, it can't be, but it's from maybe around the 23rd, 24th. Venus and the other planets were still moving back and forth, Mercury through Leo. So Venus in the sky just completed passing through that eclipse point again in the last couple of days. So if y'all have been feeling stirred up, or if time has been wobbly or weird for you, and I know it has for me, that eclipse point has been activated again. And that will continue to happen by the sun will activate that position, the moon will activate that position. That will keep stimulating, stirring up those kinds of energies throughout the year. And of course, a major one that's coming is when the sun goes into Scorpio this fall, and it will form a challenging or square relationship with the eclipse point too. And Jupiter, when it moves into the sign of Scorpio, where it will remain for a year, will activate all that stuff too in a pretty big way. So we're not going to focus too much on that tonight, but I just sort of wanted to recap that a little bit in case you've been noticing it. The thing about these astrology energies is you might not remember that I said, oh, Venus went through the eclipse point, but you might remember like, oh yeah, I've been having a lot of weird experiences with time. Like I know there's been times when like, for me, like it was like in the movies when the hands were like flying around and I'm like, how did 4 hours just go by? I would swear it was just 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes would go by and it would seem like it was taking a day and a half. And that would just, and it would alternate like that, especially these last 2 or 3 days. So eclipse can have a lot of, ongoing energies like that. So this new moon has occurred in the sign of Virgo. So we're going to be talking about Virgo types of wisdom, Virgo types of energies. Because this energy doesn't just affect you if you were born under the sign of Virgo. It's somewhere in your chart, it's somewhere in your consciousness, and it's a big deal right now. There are a lot of planets. Just like this summer we had a lot of planets moving through Leo. Now we have a lot of planets moving through Virgo. And it's a very different energy with a different set of instructions for us. And they're really, I think, valuable to know about. So Virgo relates in a lot of ways with our health and our bodies and our daily routines. So how we take care of our lives in very daily, practical ways, whether it be our daily health, our daily duties, our daily rituals. A lot of times it relates with work, sort of a worker bee kind of energy. And it's very detail oriented. So the professions most commonly stereotypically associated with Virgo people are accountants and healthcare professionals because of the need for meticulous attention to detail, with which Virgo energy tends to gravitate towards. Like why? They enjoy the exacting nature of certain kinds of work, or at least they have a facility towards it, if nothing else in the chart is sort of blocking that or challenging it. So during the Virgo time of year, guess what? We're asked to do the same thing, to pay attention to those small details of life that are so very important if they're neglected. Your health, your wellness, and specifically your diet. Virgo energy has a lot to do with how we absorb nutrients into the body. And any routines that you have to take care of yourself. And then, of course, any issues along the lines of work. And work so much, it's more about the day-to-day aspect of work, not always the bigger calling, but certainly those two are often related. They're not inseparable. But a lot of times it's the work that we do for money, even though really our true identity is an artist or an actor, or there might be some other calling that's bigger for us than what we do in the day-to-day world. And sometimes they're married together and sometimes they're not. So I think one of the big highlights with Virgo energy is this choosing. How do we want to be of service? It's like we must be of service in some way is Virgo's message to us. Like whenever I say must, obviously you don't have to do it, The energy is a giant invitation, like, how do you want to be of service? How do you want to make really good choices around this, or informed choices, or alert choices in your own life? And you get to choose. And you don't always have to understand why you want to serve in one way, and why you're not available to serve in some other way. And contrary to popular belief, you don't really have to explain that to anybody else. It's more about your truth and what you feel called to do in service on a day-to-day basis or in a given situation that you might find yourself in. And you may be very clear in a given situation, like, I'm not called to do any service here. I'm going to be just staying quiet, and this is not my road to hell. It might be someone else's opportunity to step up. That's kind of hard sometimes with Virgo energy because it can feel guilty, it can feel responsible, it can feel like, well, I'm strong, I'm competent, I know how to be of service, so I'll just always be the one to take the helm, and that's not healthy, and it's not always accurate either. There might be other folks in the group that could contribute in a healthy way too. So we're all being asked to sort of look at these issues. Virgo wisdom is also very discerning, or it can be, or it's the opportunity for discernment and making precise, exact types of determinations. It's the time of year of the harvest. So decisions were made during that time of year, like how much grain will we bring to market to sell? How much of the crop do we need to keep to get us through the winter? You know, how do we need to prepare for the weeks and months ahead? And those were important decisions to be made. In most symbolism, when you see the Virgo image, you see, you know, a maiden woman holding a sheaf of wheat. So it's that time of year. The important thing with Virgo energy is to try to avoid perfectionism because it's easy to lapse into too much detail and to feel like you have to do everything right and everything perfectly. There's no margin for error. And too much Virgo energy can lapse into self-sacrifice, like just turn yourself into a human doing, a doormat. Oh, I'll work 24/7 to get stuff done. It's kind of easy to lapse into too much sacrifice during the Virgo time of year. So again, one of the higher callings of Virgo energy is the process, the journey of seeking to make oneself better or life better, the improvement of circumstances, the perfecting of a craft, which we all know there's no such thing as perfection, but it's the work that we do to get better at something and to develop a craft and to take it from the desires of Leo and all the stuff we say we want and do something about it and start learning more about it and start taking action around it and in a regular way and taking care of our health and not sacrificing ourselves for our goals. So it's not as glamorous or as fun of an energy to talk about, you know, or to inhabit, but it's really important. And it actually can be fun. And I think in our society we've gotten to so much distortion around it, like, you know, so we've gone so worker bee about it. We forgot that there's really a lot of magic to be a healer, to be someone who is so tuned in, so connected that they can make these types of discernments in, you know, connection with their higher power, in connection with their own divine. That's a pretty cool gig, you know. And, you know, millennia ago, it wasn't really about the chaste virgin that we've come to associate with, like you're not supposed to have sex. It was more about being the woman who got to focus on her profession, who didn't have to focus on children and family. She got to be a healer, she got to be a priestess, she got to function in a role that was very elevated in society. And it's my understanding that when those roles originated, she was not expected to be a virgin. She had the freedom to choose how she wanted to be of service to the community. So that was actually kind of more glamorous than how we think of it now. It's kind of cool. And then I always like to remind people who are experiencing a lot of Virgo energy, like, don't forget to put yourself at the top of your own to-do list. So here's the chart for the new moon that happened this morning. here in Chicago at 12:30 in the morning. So just to orient you, this chart, you have your own chart, you have your own energy. The whole circle, if this was a person that's born at the new moon, this would be, all of this that you see in front of you would be all of their energy, and we can plug in more information, asteroids and things like that. So the stuff on the outer circle, that's them. Stuff inside all the pie chart, slice, and that's them. This is a working picture of someone's energy. And at the moment of a person's birth, they would be in the center of the circle. And all this is what's going on around them. And in astrology, that side of the chart is actually the east. And this is the horizon line, so that you can see there's a planet getting ready to set at the time and go below the horizon. This is the west. So this is everything that was going on below decks, below the horizon at the time of the new moon. And this is what was up in the sky. And you would expect to see the majority of the planets right around 12:30 below the horizon, and that's what we see. And here are the sun and the moon below the horizon where we can't see them at the time of the new moon. Very close together in the sky at 27 degrees, 27 minutes of Virgo. And then we can look over here and see Mercury, Mars, and Venus were also moving through the sign of Virgo. Jupiter was not far behind. This is Saturn, that's Pluto, and up above there was planet Uranus and planet Neptune at the time of the new moon. So we're going to be talking about some of these really important relationships that are going on in this chart, because this is sort of our marching orders for the next 30 days, but it also shows some of those outer planets. Remember I said Jupiter was opposite Uranus for the last year? Here's Jupiter, and up above there is planet Uranus. So you can see at 25 degrees of Libra, Uranus is up there at 27 degrees of Aries. That's pretty exact. They're getting close to making that last exact opposition again. And if you want to know what's been the correlation in the solar system for all the chaos and all the disruption that's been going on here on Earth, it's Jupiter opposite Uranus. Now there are other positive potentials of that really dicey interaction as well, but that's a big, like remember I said, if there's stuff going on here, it has to be going on in the solar system, and Jupiter opposite Uranus has a lot to do with chaos. And big chaos, not little chaos, big chaos, lots of it, plenty of it, and some more. Because Jupiter likes things big, and it's expansive, and it magnifies. If it's just taken by itself, Jupiter and Libra would love a good party, and we love a big party, and bring everybody you know. Like it's just more, just pile on. Jupiter does not go from moderation, okay? And it's moving opposite the planet that does not like to follow a script. It is rebellious, it defies authority, it is chaotic, it is completely unpredictable. So when people want to know what's going to happen to during their Uranus transits, it's like, hold on for change. And because you don't really know how it's going to play out. But what is underlying it, Uranian wisdom, is whatever is most authentically you. You know, whoever you really are, if we stripped away politeness or, societal convention, or the part of you that wants to please other people or follow the rules, or that's scared to risk that. I mean, that's a real autonomous energy. And too much autonomy, or in the people could, now it's going to go into the realm where it's but people who are sort of pounding the drums for autonomy, it might be too much. They might be, what tends to happen is in an opposition is that it's like tug of war. Oh, more Jupiter and Libra, remember us, there's more than one person here, and Uranus and Aries is like, oh no, it's just me, all by myself, I don't care what you all think. So there's a real battle back and forth between those two energies. Of course, the opportunity in astrology when you see an opposition is to try to get both ends working, to try to have it more like a circuit that works together, and again, then towards the good, not necessarily towards a darker energy.
Also, just a general question, like when you were pointing out in the Virgo moon here's some things to be aware of. I guess it depends on your chart to know whether like it becomes easier for you to follow, take these steps and follow your health, or does that just in general mean everyone will be challenged? You know?
Everyone's invited. Everyone's invited to the incremental, take baby steps in the direction of your goals party. And yeah, it depends on what else is going on in your chart to know, oh, this is more likely in the realm of your creative life, or your family life, or your marriage, or your, your bigger career, or just your whole life in general. And on any given day, you might experience these energies. Some other people it can be health in a big way. And with Jupiter opposite Uranus, people, can be sleeping disrupted. I mean, we could have a whole talk on what are the possibilities of Jupiter and Uranus expressing, and we did talk a lot about that in January. But so we see that in this chart, this is a big player, and we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it in a bit. Did you want to say something, Doris?
Yeah, question. When you talk about the conditions being ripe and for chaos, are you also talking about like environmental chaos?
Mm-hmm. You name it. Yeah. And I know I said I wasn't going to go there if we promise to come back. Just to give you an example of how the language expresses. So what is Virgo energy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Earth. Okay. Virgo is the earth. Virgo is an earth sign. It's the earth energy. Jupiter is in the air. Uranus is air, and it's like, bring on the chaos, make it bigger. And these energies, some of these Virgo planets, this whole new moon is also having a really difficult relationship with planet Uranus. So you see these are at 27 degrees of Virgo. Uranus is at 27 degrees of Aries. In astrology, that's called a quincunx. It sounds funny. It is funny. It's 150 degrees apart. It is not comfortable. That's a relationship that's, in some astrologers' minds, more difficult than the opposition, because they're two energies that have like nothing in common, and they're always adjusting. It's like having a burr in your saddle, sand in your shoe. It's very annoying. And it can be annoying in a big way. Like, why am I, for example, if Virgo tends towards perfectionism and Aries can tend towards anger, like, why am I getting furious when little things are not going my way? Just totally explosive. So if you think about what happened this morning, I know I woke up to news of, there's been an earthquake, because Uranus shakes things up. So that's one example where an astrologer doesn't have to bend over backwards to see how what's going on up there is expressing in one way. It's just one example of what we experienced here on Earth today.
Can you talk about what's happening up there and here in mirror images? Is it happening in one of those places first? Up there or here?
That's the chicken or the egg. I don't think so. I think it's, we telegraph energies to them, they telegraph energies to us. I mean, if our choices matter, if we make different environmental choices, Jupiter and Uranus can express in all kinds of different ways, but it will express, it's not just, that was fated to happen, but it might have been more likely to happen based on certain weather patterns and certain ways that we contribute to energy or life on Earth, and that's a discussion that's sort of meteorologically and environmentally above my pay grade, but it's not that we have no effect on them. It's an interrelationship, in my opinion, and how could it not be, really? So you can see where these are positioned, and I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about the sun and the moon in conjunct that Uranus, because it also picks up the relationship of that major opposition we've been having for the last year. So we're going to go on with that. Did somebody else, right?
Well, Tracy, how do you combat the opposition in your own life? Just as a simple person, experiencing chaos, or different, if I feel like the world is out of alignment, in my own life.
Well, that's where I like to go back to Virgo. What are Virgo's instructions for us? Like, what's right in front of me to do? What's mine to do in a specific way? How can I take care of myself today in a Virgo way? Do I need to go for a walk? Because I think the temptation with that Jupiter Uranus is to get too big in our thinking, like to think, I need to know the meaning of life. I need to know what my life direction is going to be for the next 20 years. It's like, what are you having for breakfast? Is there a mess on the dining room table? Is there something that needs to be cleaned or taken to the store to get repaired? And I'm not trying to oversimplify, but that will bring you back into now, into your life, where all the power is. Right? All the wisdom traditions teach us that. Like, where are your feet and your hands, and what are you doing? And that's so the domain of Virgo. It's like, get specific and try not to get insane, with Virgo, trying to control everything in your environment. Like, oh, now my house is clean, therefore nothing bad can happen. It's like, good luck. I've had
I
so
feel like
much.
I forgot what year it was. I was like, I was off by 10 years. That's how chaotic the energy I feel has been.
It sounds like the eclipse too.
Maybe.
Those big distortions in time. That energy that was huge, and it's still a factor. So the eclipse is happening, and Jupiter opposite Uranus is happening. This stuff isn't happening in isolation. It's kind of piling on, but not all in a bad way. There's some good stuff going on here too.
Say that again.
The
That fourth planet?
quincunx. Well, specifically, it's the new moon was pretty exact, dead bang on in a quincunx with Uranus, which is the trickster. It's a trickster because it wants to show you where you're not being authentic, where you're not being real, maybe where you're trying to be of service and you needn't be. That's not yours to do, or you're trying to control everything. Virgo energy, when it's distorted, this could be, I'm trying to control every last detail. And then I can't tell you how many times in the past few weeks I've had oh, I just got done cleaning, and it's like, great, a gallon of water just exploded in the trunk of the car and soaked everything in the trunk. It's like, that's where Uranus is like, joke's on you. There's no such thing as perfection right now. There's no such thing as control. It doesn't mean that it's not like, well, okay, now clean the trunk. It's not, oh, I need to know the meaning of life. It's like, no, you need to clean the mess out of the trunk because the water exploded. It's like, just what's right in front of you. And yes, that did happen to me. That's 6 in the morning when I went to move my car because I get it out of the school zone. I'm like, something smells funny, and I opened the trunk and this gallon of water had soaked like everything. And my trunk is never usually that full of crap, and it was so full of crap. So in my pajamas, like schlepping stuff to the dumpster at 6 in the morning, and I was like, okay, Uranus is the trickster. It just laughs. You just have to. Jupiter has a good sense of humor. You just have to laugh sometimes at the crazy things that are going on right now. If there's room for laughter, if it's you're not in really dire circumstances. So in this new moon chart, we talked about the inconjunction. We're going to go into that a little bit more. Thankfully, the new moon was also in a challenging relationship with Saturn, but most of had moved past most of the difficulty that was stirring up. We're going to talk about Mercury opposite Neptune. And we did talk about now Venus has moved into Virgo, and there's no more planets expressing in Leo right now. So let's move through some of this. So we already talked about what I think a major message of the new moon in conjunction Uranus is, it's the healing value of irreverence.
No, I'm just.
This stuff I can email to all you guys too. So, if you want a PDF, make sure you're on my email list and I can send you all this so you don't have to feel like you have to grab a hold of this. So I really think it's the healing value of irreverence. Perfectionism, you throw it right out the window. It's not going to happen. But you still have to aim for what is true for you and what needs to get done in your own life, right here, not bigger global picture, in my opinion. Because you'll get distracted. It's like, you know, when you're looking too far down the road and you don't see somebody step out on the curb right in front of you. It's like, oh my God, you know, that's what Uranus brings you right back to, like, oh, geez, you know, I was looking too far, and the bigger picture, the stuff that's not mine to control, and then something happened right in front of me for me to pay attention to. So it's a lot of experiences like that. And also the cool thing about Uranus is it's very spontaneous. It's like it will give you instructions in the moment. It will tell you intuitively, it'll give you a little bit of advance notice a lot of times. Yes, my intuition told me a couple times, like, I better get that gallon of water out of the trunk. And I didn't do it. Like, within 2 days of thinking that, boom, it was a mess. That's the thing about Uranus and Aries. It's not going to wait around for you. It might give you some advanced, like, okay, how about doing that? Or, didn't you mean to change your passwords on your phone and blah, 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 blah. If you're hearing that kind of just not alarming, hysterical, paranoid way, it's like, maybe go ahead and do it. Do those things in your own life that maybe aren't going to solve global problems, but might save you a lot of headaches. And so you can be more present in your own life, and you can be more of service, and somehow that's got to be to the good of everyone. And Uranus, when you're in the moment, helps you be spontaneous. It helps you innovate. It helps you, what I say, call an audible or go off script. Just say, I think I'll actually go over here now. Because if you're paying attention, you'll probably hear some intuitive, like, I think I should take this route. And you do, and you're like, thank God, because I forgot there was construction on Peterson or whatever. It can be a lot of little moments like that. That's Uranian energy. That's actually intuitive trying to give you advanced warning about, hey, you know, there's stuff going on. So it's a lot of adjusting. It's hard to get settled, but Uranus loves freedom, and Virgo really is about that freedom to choose. What am I going to work on? What am I going to focus on? What's important? Am I going to, you know, buy healthy food in the store today? Or am I going to do the old way, buy all the crap that, you know, too much sugar, and then I can't think straight? It's a lot of little choices that make a big difference. The message of Uranus is that change is really essential. It can be liberating, and I think I'm a Taurus. We don't like change. Most of us, it's like, oh, what's wrong with the old way? You know, I still got my old one, it's not broken. And it's really, Uranus is just like, let it go, that was the past. Let it go, that was the past. Let it go, change is good. It can be liberating. Yes, you know, technology is not always bad, it's important. You know, it's like, don't think that it won't let you romanticize the old ways in the past. Even for those stubborn Taurus diehards, it's like, all right, I'm willing to look forward. I'm willing to do things differently. I'm willing to think about the future. And Uranus is the court jester of the zodiac. That's how I like to think of it. So, and the court jester was allowed to say all kinds of stuff to the people in power that nobody else was allowed to say. And, you know, what was it? The emperor has no clothes. The court jester was the person who could say those things and to make jokes and to point out where people who were in power were way out of line or were making bad choices. And that's how Uranus functions for us. It can kind of show you, like, okay, bad news, the way you are doing things is not going to continue to work. What about some change? And it often does it with a sense of humor. It's often not this do or die, I'm going to blow stuff up in your face if you don't listen to me, you know, even though it probably could. So it is about, you know, laughing at these plans. It's like, go ahead and make them, try not to be too attached to them, they may need to change. That's kind of the message of this month. It's like, your details, your life do matter, and try to be flexible, because you might get thrown a couple of curveballs. And if you get some of those goofy trickster episodes in your life, you may want to ask yourself if there's something you're resisting changing. Are you resisting the idea of change? Are you trying too hard to have everything be perfect or be right? You know, are you too attached to those details? Because in that case, you might start finding yourself getting really angry. I don't know, has anybody experienced that in the past couple of weeks? Like just really angry and seemingly over little things, but it's not. These things have been piling up and building up in you for a long time. And I know for women, a lot, it's like all the times where we were nice, when we really just did not want to be nice. Because Virgo is like, do the right thing, be of service. And it can just be like all the times where you just did not confront somebody or tell them what you really wanted. Uranus and Aries was like, is that really what you meant to say? You know, so I know I confronted several things where I was like, really? You know, is this really what I have to deal with? You know, and I didn't have the patience or the tolerance to try to be nice. And of course, I thought I was being outrageous, over the top shrew, and nobody even noticed. But I felt like I was, blowing my stack and yelling and stuff. And it was kind of comedy situations afterwards. But I felt all this anger and stuff because I was trying to be nice and follow the rules and do things. And Uranus was like, no, that's not going to work. You're going to have to speak up because there is no structure here. There's no order. You're going to have to say what you need. You're going to have to speak up. Does that make sense? Like an example of, has anybody else been experiencing anything like that where it's like, I think I need to speak up because this is a mess and I don't feel like, you don't necessarily feel like being nice, but it doesn't mean you're being outrageous either. It's just such an old, ingrained, behavior.
So this energy's been going on for a couple of weeks, you're saying, before the new.
Yeah, because the sun has been in Virgo. We've had planets in Virgo now. This is actually, Virgo's only going to be, the sun's only going to be in Virgo for a couple more days until the equinox. So it's been moving through, but it's with a big crescendo right now at this new moon. And with more planets, even though the sun will be moving into Libra, a lot of planets will be lagging behind in Virgo. That's why I'm spending so much time talking about it, because we won't be done with Virgo planets until like October 23rd, October 24th. And so this stuff is just going to keep cycling through. And that's why we're spending so much time. So, and ways to be of service can pop up very spontaneously and in very fun ways. Uranus loves fun. It's like spontaneous. It's like, hey, how about this? How about that? You might just see in an instant. You might chime in like, I can do that in a way that feels totally natural, not like self-sacrifice. It's just like, oh my gosh, I'd be happy to do that. You might see where you can be of service without even having to think about it. So there can be a lot of authentic responses in the moment with Uranus, which is really cool too. And some of that anger, like, no, you can't stand in the street when I'm trying to park, like get out of the street that I experienced. Like this guy was standing in this parking space trying to tell me, help me park my car. And I was like, who would help? Get out of the street! He was literally standing in the spot and wouldn't move. And I'm like, get out of the street! It's just that kind of goofiness. Like, I know how to park a car. By the way, you do need to move so I can park it. Just that, like, those moments that in years past I would have just been so polite and so nice. And I was like, get out of the street! And then wondering, like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, you know what, nothing. He was fine, nobody cared. The other message with Uranus is tomorrow is today. There's no tomorrow. It is like stuff's happening right now. The future's happening right now. All the stuff we've been putting off getting to, it's time to get to it. And we can't do it all at once. You will disappoint your inner perfectionist because your to-do list will be ridiculously long, but it's good to have it in mind and keep cranking away at this stuff. So there might be kind of a fast pace, like ordinarily you might have moved through your day, and so that was a good day's work. You might realize, like, I think I will wash the floor when I get home. Now that's not workaholic mode. It's almost like, really? And it's the right thing to do, and you just feel it, and you're like so happy to be washing clothes. You can't believe it because you needed to get out. I know I needed to get out of my head. I needed to move. I'm like, I can't believe I'm not washing. why am I not watching TV? It's like, because Virgo was like, no, and Uranus was like, no, authentically get this done. And you actually will have the energy sometimes to move through stuff that's been sitting there waiting for you to get to, that normally you wouldn't have the energy for, and you would think, oh my God, I'm turning myself into a workaholic. I can't believe I'm still moving here. And you're okay. So it's almost like there is energy, extra energy available for your details if they're the authentic ones in the moment. And you can't plan that stuff ahead. It's almost like at the start of the day, you might not have thought that by the end of the day you'd be doing that. But this way you have to kind of stay tuned in. Uranus is like, I'll keep broadcasting if you keep listening. You know, we can make some adjustments here, and then you'll find other time opening up elsewhere. And that was just one example. I mean, if you're really done and you're tired, then by all means call it. You know what I mean? But you may find that you have these extra spurts of energy at times you wouldn't ordinarily have them, and go for it. You know, if it seems like a healthy choice tonight. Okay. We already talked a little bit about the fried green tomatoes. Did you guys know that scene in the movie where in Fried Green Tomatoes, that movie where Kathy Bates, she's hormonal, she's been nice all her life, she's been soft-spoken, and she gets cut off in the parking lot by these younger women. She's waiting to pull into a parking space. Y'all know the scene in the movie I'm talking about? Okay, that's what this Uranus is too. So I was like, oh my God, I did YouTube that when I was preparing this talk, and it was so fun to see her doing that, because so these women cut her off, so she smashes into the back of their car. Not once, but several times. Because they had gotten out, and she's like, hey, I was waiting for that spot, and they said, oh, face it, we're younger and we're faster, and they laugh and they walked off. So they walk off, she's smashing into the back of their car multiple times. The best part is her howling with laughter the whole time she's doing it. You know, backs up, does it again, backs up, does it again, 3 or 4 times. And they come out, they're like, are you insane? What are you doing? She said, face it, I'm older and I have more insurance. And it's that kind of Uranian energy. I'm not saying go out and do property damage, but this stuff is stirring. She was just, the best part was the laughter of her, like, whoa, you know, and she did it again. It's the best scene. And that's sort of some of this energy that's brewing just might be like, I don't have patience for this. You know, this is not cool. So some of the challenges of having so much Virgo energy expressing can be the all work and no play attitude. And that has gotten a hold of me sometimes too, where I just felt like a robot, like I cannot have fun. You know, like I just felt trapped in some kind of weird energy in my body that was like so uptight, like I can't rest for the next 6 months, you know, there's no fun in life. So it can really kind of take on a life of its own, which try to dissolve that, break that up in whatever way you can if you get into that extreme, because it is bizarre. It is a weird feeling to have, like, no, I am now a machine. You know, I'm not a human being anymore. It's also that perfectionism, like if I can't do it perfectly, why bother trying? That can just be so paralyzing. So try to watch out for that. And it can be, you know, anger over procedural miscues, or feeling like you're being left being the responsible one. This is where I want to get into the Mercury opposite Neptune. In the chart of the new moon planet Mercury, which rules communication and information and how we think and how we travel. So Mercury was one of these planets down here. It's moving almost exactly opposite planet Neptune. It's 12 degrees, and then Neptune's up here at 12 degrees. And Neptune is in the sign of Pisces. And that's a really spacey energy. It's, you know, Virgo specific, it's meticulous, it's precise. Pisces is diffuse and vast, and you know, it's all the water in the ocean, and we're all connected, and we're all one. And that's why sometimes Pisces people have a hard time not feeling spaced out and not getting into vagueness and not getting into big, you know, just kind of drifting. So when Mercury, how we think, is in opposition to Neptune, that can be sometimes where we have a hard time focusing. Or when we're focusing, but the other people are being dippy because it's in opposition. So a lot of times in oppositions, the way they play out in our life is we're standing on one end. Or we're the space cadets and our friends are furious at us like, we told you 5 times we were meeting at 5 o'clock. You're like, oh, I forgot. You know, it can be interactions like that. And at some point during the next 3 or 4 weeks or so, Mercury's moving opposite Neptune, Mars will, and so will Venus. So that can be really feeling like, I can't focus, or when it's in an opposition, that all that Neptune energy can be very paranoid, not very specific, can feel like you're drifting along in some weird alien movie where, you know, people are moving the furniture around and you can't remember where you left things. And so the opportunity is, again, to get both sides of that opposition working. So some deliberate reaching for spiritual energy, some deliberate reaching for meditation, art, time where you don't have to be accountable, where you can just sit and be quiet and listen to your reading or your favorite music. Otherwise, that's why I wrote, like, you might get angry and prickly, and then because other people just gave themselves permission to not be on time. Like, well, I just didn't think it was important because blah, blah, and you're like, oh, you know, because you're over-inhabiting the Virgo energy. So it is sort of a call to try to be compassionate and to try to make sense out of. It's harder to make sense out of what's important, what's the priority, what am I supposed to be specific about when Neptune's there. So if you start getting spacey, I think it might be a call to take time out. Like, I can't think straight, so don't try. You know, maybe could you go for a walk, could you take a nap, could you call somebody you know, just a chitty chat, could you do something that isn't about, I must force my way through this. I know in preparing this talk I had to take a lot more breaks than I usually do. It was like, all of a sudden I would get overwhelmed, you know, and I was just like, it's coming together, but it's coming together with a lot more. I have to walk away from this. I have to take a break. And that can be a little bit unnerving if you're trying to get something done, so you have to be patient with yourself. Okay, and then the other thing that can be challenging about too much Virgo energy is the focus on what's not there. We can focus too much on what needs to be done, or what hasn't been done, or what isn't perfect, or what isn't right yet. And that would be a real bummer if you spent too much time hanging out in that energy, because I think the secret to what we're really trying to learn with all this Virgo energy and all that Uranus energy is that the secret is to focus on what's already there. What is in front of you? What is in your life? What is yours to take care of? Not all the stuff you didn't do, the 3 versions of yourself you never became, what happened. It's like, who are you? And what are the things for you to take care of in your life now? And maybe move around and maybe develop or let go of, but not what's missing. You know, it's sort of like the secret with this Virgo and Uranus and Aries energy, in my opinion, is nothing. There's nothing missing. Do you want to work to improve something? Do you want to let it go? Do you want to schlep a bunch of stuff to Goodwill and clear your space? It doesn't mean you did it wrong. It doesn't mean there's anything missing. It's like, well, what's right in front of you? You know? And it doesn't mean you can't decide, no, there is some stuff missing. You know, I haven't been taking care of. You may become aware of areas of your life you've been avoiding or neglecting. It's like, that's great. Start paying attention to those. That's your life, you know. Uranus may be trying to show you some of that. Like for some folks, like, yes, I have so not been looking at my diet, and it's time to look at what I'm putting into my body. And it's like, that's great. Can you just take a baby step in that direction? That's really what's right in front of you to do. have all these things you don't have, or, you know, but Virgo can be constantly like, no, you didn't get to this, and you didn't solve that problem, and you know, those 3 emails, and what, you know, you never responded to those, and how about those dishes in the sink, and all the stuff you're not doing, and that's an unfortunate kind of when the ego mind, when the thinking grabs a hold of Virgo and just uses it to like torture you. You know, we all go there. Especially with this much Virgo energy and with Mars in Virgo, it's a lot of nervous energy. Like almost where like you feel that feeling in your body, like you're all nervous. So you might need to walk it off more. You might not be able to sit for your meditation until you move around a little bit. Whether it be just literally doing some of this, or dancing a little bit, or walk around the block, or take the dog out if you have a pet. Oh, Virgo has a lot to do with pets. So you may have, if you've wanted a pet, you may get a pet, or if you haven't been taking care of your pet the way you want, there may be more going on with that. But we've got to get past that frustration of and the fear that the perfectionism can shut us down, and all the nervousness when we start taking those steps in the direction of what we want. So whether it be through moral support or some kind of gentle movement, and then by all means make lists if you want to. Virgos are good at making lists, but try not to get into perfectionism about everything you didn't do on the list, and please focus on giving yourself credit for, I did those 3 things tonight, or I did that call this week or this month, or something you've been avoiding for a long time, like, boy, I've been stuck on this sometimes for years. This is the year where it's like, I've been saying I was going to do that for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 4 years. It's like that stuff can get done this year, and I bet the people in this room are like, oh yeah, I've already been taking care of a lot of that stuff. So that Uranus energy is like, this is you, this is your life, this is your authentic self. It is trying to help us. I believe these planets would rather be a help in our life rather than a hindrance or a trickster, but it's like, okay, whatever works, you know what I mean? Our role in receiving the information and receiving the energy has something to do with whether or not the messages come. They're going to come, you know. If I had listened, take the water out of the trunk, you know what I mean? It's like I got the message, I didn't do it, the water exploded. I got a mess. So it's just, that's the way a lot of this is going to express. So we're going to get into the Equinox stuff now, because 2 days from now, the sun will move into the Libra time of year. And that happens at the time of the September or the fall equinox, also called the autumnal equinox. So here's a picture of the 4 seasons, what happens in the sky during that time. The sun is in the middle, where the earth is revolving around the sun. And at the September equinox, the sun actually shines its light right down on the equator in sort of a perpendicular way. And it's the only time of the year when the sun shines its light in perpendicular fashion to the equator. And the March equinox and the September equinox. But it's good information. So the sun shines directly on the equator. The sun crosses the equator and creates equal light. So it's the day of the year that happens twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall, where we have pretty much equal light during the day and at night. So that's what equinox means. It's Latin for equal night. So it's pretty much evenly distributed. And what happens also at that time is that the sun rises almost directly in the east, like not on a weird angle, and sets almost directly in the west. It's like the most clean and clear that delineation looks like it happens all over the world. And so the light is equal, pretty much, almost exactly, daytime and nighttime. And then from there we move on in the fall to longer nights, longer and longer and longer, till we get to the winter solstice, which is the day of the most darkness, and which gradually builds back then into most light in the summertime. Did you want to say
So
something?
yeah, that's probably why the symbol is the
It's Libra, the scales. It's all about that. This is the symbol that he's talking about. So it is about balance. So for Equinox, it's the first day of the fall, which is happening this Friday. It's about equal day, equal night, and Libra energy is about finding balance. And it's about harmony, it's about peace, it's the sign that is most concerned and I think has easiest access to certain kind of grace. You know, poise, there's a light touch, a light gentle touch that comes with Libra energy a lot of times. And it's most concerned with manners and being considerate of other people. It's the time where we get into the zodiac where we're actually thinking more about other people and our relationships. And the word, it's where we consider other people. We consider that we're not the only person in the room, you know. And consider actually means with the stars in Latin. So it's like moving with the energy that's there. It's the most neutral and because the most objective, it can see both sides of a situation most easily. In fact, it's always hard for Libras not to see both sides of the situation. You're really going to be making your Libra friends miserable if you ask them to choose sides, because it's just not usually how they're wired up. They're like, well, this guy's got a point, you've got a point. You know, it just can't help but embrace that paradox or see that both things that are true at the same time. So it has a lot to do with cooperation and participation, about being playful and being social and interacting with others and getting involved. So it's definitely a fun energy, you know. Usually Libra people are what my mom used to call fun bunnies. You know, they know how to have fun. They like to be around other people. They enjoy other human beings. They like to know what's going on with people. And it's not just about relationships between people. It's sounds, shapes, colors. Libra energy understands that all of life is related and everything is happening relative to something else. So it's a really cool time of year. And the key questions for the equinox obviously are, you know, where am I on balance? And how can I come back into balance? And will that take a big adjustment on my part? Or maybe a little one? Or, you know, it's constantly, you know, trying to find its own balance. And it's certainly a good time to look at relationships. Have I been participating? Have I been showing up? Have I been ignoring them or neglecting them? Or am I over-serving? You know, am I always the peacemaker? Am I always the one who's taking care of the relationship? Because a lot of times Libra people will put a lot of energy into their relationships and forget to focus on themselves or forget to let their partners contribute more. You know, they're just more comfortable focusing in that way. It's also important to consider whether or not you're listening to other points of view and considering other ways of looking at a situation. It's not an either or energy, it's sort of a both and energy. So it's that time of year where some of us who don't have Libra planets are like, oh God, this isn't really, like we now that part of our chart that doesn't have that energy moving through it has some help. And of course for the last year, Jupiter, which makes things bigger, right, has been moving through the sign of Libra and it's almost done. So Jupiter has been, but it's been moving in opposition to Uranus. So it's been a lot of maybe difficulty related. Difficulty trying to establish autonomy in relationships. Break up, get back together, break up. It's like hard to find a rhythm in relationships. And Uranus loves new and loves change. So Jupiter moving opposite Uranus is maybe you don't feel that close to your friends or certain communities where you participate in anymore. It's a time for new ones. And how are you going to find out which one's right for you? Virgo will get into perfectionism, like go try some new things. Try new groups, try new discussions. show up for a dance class or an art class or a different musical group or a different lecture series, or try it, because Uranus is about experimentation. You might not know until you try things. So we've all been going through that already for a year. So Jupiter's getting ready to move out of Libra, right as the Sun and some of the inner planets are coming in behind it for their annual trek through Libra sign. So there's that beautiful image of sort of like blindly, like blind justice. It's also the symbol of justice, right? And Jupiter in Libra is that type of year, like what's fair, what's reasonable, and not just for me, but it's got to work for everybody. And so you can see that this beautiful angel is not really able to see. The beautiful hair is covering her eyes. And on one side, I don't know if you can see, but you can see her. The sun, that looks like the energy of the sun on one side, and the moon, sort of the more mystical, more masculine energy, feminine energy, assertive, receptive, yin and yang, male and female. It's always that balance that all humans are kind of called to put into motion or have some understanding about to different degrees in this lifetime. So it's always that question about am I giving or receiving? That might be a big one for some people who are, some people are compulsive doers and givers and they don't know how to receive. And this year I think has been a hard year when it comes to that stuff, because I feel like that Uranus is saying, you've got to let me bring this to you. I'm trying to bring you change, and you're not receiving. And so there's a lot of issues around giving and receiving this year too. And it's interesting that Venus is the planet that is most associated with Libra, but Venus is still in Virgo when this is going on. So that's another reason why I'm like, well, we're in the Libra time of year, but astrologers don't just look at a sign. It's like, well, what's the ruler of that sign doing? What's going on with that? It gives us more information about our relationships. So if the ruler or the planet most associated with Libra is still in Virgo, it's like we might have all kinds of stuff to clean up or put in order or prioritize or incrementally work to improve in our relationships. It might not be the most fun Libra time of year that we've ever experienced, because there might be all kinds of stuff we want to change. Now, if Libra is expressing in your life like as artistic expression or the energy in your home, you might want to make some improvements. You might want to use Virgo energy to step it up more. Or Venus Virgo is like, well, I want to be of service to people more. I'm bored with my social life. Sometimes Libra people really fill up their social lives and start to feel a little bit bored, like I can't do another dinner party or golf outing or concert or this or that. Does someone need my help? Like, where can I put my energy in a more useful way? Could be for some people during this Libra cycle. Not everybody. Some people aren't so good at having fun, and they need to learn to take incremental baby steps. Like, I need to learn how to have more fun. I don't even know what that means, So it could be like do some projects to get better at having fun. And then, okay. So at the equinox, the moon and Venus, even though Venus is in Virgo, they're in a nice relationship, because actually, as we get into the equinox chart, the sun is moving into Libra and the moon has moved again. It'll be in the sign of Scorpio. So that's why we need to talk about Scorpio energy. The reason that equinox time of year is so important to look at is because the same way that the new moon sets the tone for the month, the equinox sets the tone for the quarter. So it's like these are big themes from now until that winter solstice. And that's why astrologers look at these energies and what's expressing during these key moments because it's what are we carrying forward during the next quarter. And then here's that chart. So at the time of the equinox, the sun is now 0 degrees of Libra. We still have Mercury, Mars, and Venus in Virgo. The moon's up there next to Jupiter, but it has already passed through Libra and it's in the sign of Scorpio. And Venus is now so that's what that chart looks like in a couple days, just on this Friday. So what I think this chart picks up and what the energy of the third quarter is about is everything we've been talking about, plus Scorpio energy. So this is a Libra equinox time of year, but Jupiter will be changing signs on October 10th to Scorpio. The moon's in Scorpio at the time of the equinox, and it's picking up a lot of Scorpio themes, which are very different from Libra energies. So I really wanted to move forward and talk about some Scorpio energy, because even though it's the Libra time of year that's about grace and balance, and I care about your point of view, and we should all have a voice, there's a lot of Scorpio themes coming into play that are not as polite or graceful or delicate or diplomatic as Libra energy. And that can be a good thing, it can be a challenging thing. So it lends a lot of intensity to this last quarter. And for those of us, who've been around for a while, it's almost like, yay, bring on the intensity. Yay, bring on the emotional depth. Bring on this examination of what's been hidden or what has been unseen or been invisible, or, darkness is almost not necessarily the correct term, although it can be dark. We can go into dark places in our minds, but it's really most about what's not seen, what hasn't been visible, what's been beneath the surface, what's been buried, what hasn't been talked about. And so those things can be dark, and the goblins in the corner can seem really big, and they can be this big if you're not looking at them. They can take on more mythic proportions than maybe they're really meant to have. But the longer you don't look at it, it's sort of like that expression, you're only as sick as your secrets. So Scorpio energy is more about secrets and passion and obsession, and these types of words are like vengeful. Like when someone does you wrong and you really imagine how you're going to get revenge. I didn't used to think that way, but with this energy that's going on this year, I've been having a lot more oh my God, I'm totally planning my revenge. Or, in my mind, I'm not really doing it, but I'm amazed at my own personality, ego, ability to just go, oh, I can't wait to see this guy get his comeuppance, you know what I mean, or this person. It's my brain is really going there this year. Why? Because Jupiter in Libra has been moving in a challenging position all year. It's done now, but square to Pluto. So it's been these similar themes, which is why I'm talking about them some more. Because Jupiter's done squaring Pluto, don't worry, but now Jupiter's moving into Scorpio. So it's continuing on with this notion of how do we transform, it's a transformative energy, what has previously been dark, not seen, not looked at, into something that can be healthy and whole. How can we, and a lot of times what happens when we bury our truth or we bury our secrets, we also kind of bury some talents right along with it. Some real strong, heartfelt, soulful desires. So with Jupiter and Scorpio, it's kind of like that stuff's all coming back into the mix. It's sort of that willingness to fight for something you want, to maybe have to compete a little bit more. It's when You know, if you ever watch a sporting event and you hear the broadcaster say, oh, he's really gonna have to, or she will really have to dig deep now if they wanna, you know, switch the momentum in the match and bring things back in their favor. When those athletes are faced with those moments, those types of momentums, they're calling on their Scorpio energy, like they're digging deep. It's almost like being in a squat, you know, and really, like, what do I really want? It's much more about being able to persevere and endure and fight and move through things. And to pursue your passion, it doesn't have to be about just slugging it out. It can be about that extra energy that we have, that we need, like if we're pursuing our PhD or our master's degree, like to burn the midnight oil and to do the extra work. That Scorpio energy, that passion, that drive, can get us through a lot of stuff. It can be there for us in really good ways too. So that's why we're talking about it, because this equinox, in my opinion, picks up the energy of the Jupiter-Pluto square, and then Jupiter moving into Scorpio starting on October 10th. For a whole 12 months, it'll be in the sign of Scorpio. So it has not passed through Scorpio in 12 years. So it's a new 12-year cycle that has a lot more to do with intensity, passion, depth, loss. It's about our sexuality. It's all the taboo stuff. Sexuality, death, greed, taxes, jealousy. You know, all the stuff that if you don't look at it, if you don't shine light on it, it can turn kind of toxic and kind of ugly. And you can get competitive, you know. It's a lot of also comparison thinking and noticing what's going on with everybody else. And that's usually, I mean, if you're doing that, we're all going to probably be doing that more in the next 12 months. Like, well, what's going on? How come she doesn't have to do her homework? You know, it's classically like, well, why does she get this? Why does my neighbors have that? And it's like, okay, try to keep your focus here. Because a lot of times with Scorpio energy, it's hard to mind your own business, you know? And you may find other people kind of intrusively getting in your energy or getting in your space. So I would just invite you to, like, if someone's doing that to me, is there an area of my life that I'm doing that to someone else? And I get to say no, and I get to tell this person to stand down. Sometimes we do have to stand our ground without retaliating with this much Scorpio energy going on. Because of course Jupiter likes it bigger, you know, so it's like, oh, you want intense? Let's have more intense. So you might, sometimes it's that, no, I'm standing my ground. No, you're in my face. No, I'll do it. I said I would do it. Well, when are you going to do it? When I have time. You know, it's that kind of where we have to stand up for ourselves more. You know, sometimes Scorpio energy does us a favor by showing us where we don't stand our ground. And it maybe will require us to do that a little bit more. It is all about transformation. And again, I think one of the big secrets is what do you need to let go of with Scorpio? Because it is more about release, letting go, saying goodbye to things, more of a transformative energy. So first you just let go. It's like, oh, I'm going to let go of the idea that I have to be perfect. I mean, we could start with that, you know. And it could be a daily practice of what am I letting go of today? What am I not taking responsibility for? That, you know, sometimes we have all this responsibility for something. It's like, I can't do all this. You know, what am I going to let go of today? How can I streamline? You know, Scorpio is very, you know, a very powerful, strong, cool energy that because it's strong, a lot of times gets asked to, like, be quiet or get hidden, don't speak up. And so it starts to get toxic because it's not allowed to just be strong, passionate, intense, really go after things. It's not necessarily negative. We talked about regular constructs. Sorry, I know my notes are a little bit. Jupiter is, in a couple more days, going to be in that weird relationship with Chiron, which is an asteroid which I don't usually focus that much on, but it is in Pisces. I don't focus that much on it in these talks. And so I think it just raises a useful question because there's a lot of doubting. We're doubting a lot. So Jupiter is what we know, what we understand, what we believe, what we have faith in, and it's moving in opposition to the wounded healer, so there's a lot of pain. And in the face of this much pain, it's like, what am I supposed to have faith in anymore? You know, the world's upside down. What am I trusting? And can I trust myself, my own judgment? And I think those types of doubts are kind of temporary. We're moving through them. I would try not to overwhelm yourself with that kind of doubt. I think it's just, you know, the temporary kind of touching of sensitive places and sensitive nerves, so you can just be tender and maybe not go off half-cocked, as they used to say, not go over, just like kind of just be sure you're okay, because there's so much going on right now that none of us will really have answers to or even have perspective on. You know, till that Jupiter-Uranus stuff is well behind us, it's hard to have perspective about stuff. So don't expect yourself to have perspective about stuff. It's not fair. I wanted to finish with an example of how you can see these energies expressing, because I really think this next 30 days are key for how we do the next quarter. So that brings us back to the new moon, Equinox, that Uranus, and all that kind of trickster energy and all that jumbly energy, and how do we come back to our own lives. So we talked a little bit about it. And I always like to give an example of something that I experienced, because this stuff is always expressing, it's always available to us. So today, when I was getting ready for the talk, I'm like, I woke up with all that nervous energy, like, what's going on? Like, just too much nervousness. So I knew I had to do a Virgo activity, go to the park, be in nature, do my routine. And I mean, I was like this up, just like nerves. That Virgo energy is like excessive nerves where you're just tight and your body's responding and you don't know how to adjust. So that's where you get moving. But I mean, it's where you're like piano wire tight, sometimes that excess nervousness. Because Virgo has a lot to do with the nerves in our digestive tract when you tense up. And so I was in the park and just without realizing it, doing this energy of this chart of the Virgo new moon. Let me just pull it up. And I was like, okay, let me just do what's in front of me to do. And literally, when I was in the park, I'm like, I'm walking the grass, and I looked down, because I was kind of overwhelmed with the news from this morning. The earthquake and Maria had just hit Puerto Rico, and I was like, you know, when I was getting moving. And I, you know, had a giant cry in the living room. I'm like, okay, I can't be focusing on what's wrong with the world right now, because that can be tempting with all of this disruption. So I sat, I'm like crying, I'm like, okay, go to the park, walking, I'm looking down, and I see these little bees buzzing around on what were formerly dandelions, you know, and just doing their pollination stuff, and I'm like, oh, nature's expressing here too. Not just in these big, dramatic, huge, life-altering, way too big for above my pay grade to understand what this all means yet for so many people who are going to need our help. I'm like, oh, there's little bees. You know, the little bees are still doing what they're supposed to do. And we're so grateful. Jupiter is also gratitude. So to practice gratitude, like, well, I get to be in this beautiful park. I'm glad nature isn't only expressing in these violent ways. I'm noticing the bees. I'm starting to be restored to my life, to what's in front of me, to literally what was happening in front of my own feet. I'm like, oh, look at that. So I'm walking around, took some pictures. I did some stretches. I kind of like put my arm on the tree. And I was like, oh, because there's a locust. You know, when the locusts evacuate their skin and it's just like still in the tree. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was so cool. It was like a perfect specimen. That it looked like the locust was still in there. So now that's, you know, Virgo, bug life, plant life. I'm like, so I'm like having this experience of these energies, not realizing that's what's going on. And I was like, oh, I'll take a picture. And then I walked around and took another picture, and I was like, oh my God, I could see the hole in the exoskeleton's back where the locust had molted out of that shell. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's Scorpio That's the Jupiter energy. So it's like, it's the Virgo, pay attention to what's right in front of you. And then I looked it up and I'm like, how often do these cicadas come out? And it's like they spend 2 or 17 years underground, having this life underground, and then they come out and they come out of their shell or whatever, their exoskeleton, and have a new life. Oh, that's Scorpio. So we're going to have all these Virgo planets in positive relationship with Pluto, transforming how we think, how we communicate when Mercury interacts, transforming our relation with Mars is going to be trining Pluto. You know, easier opportunities to transform our goals and our actions and how we move forward. Venus is going to be trining Pluto because it's in Virgo, yay, while this Earth energy, transforming our relationships, our relationship with money, our relationship with our creative talents, our relationship with life itself. And we are like that creature that gets to come out of that skin or that exoskeleton that served its purpose after however many years we've been hiding underground, hiding our real talent, hiding from our authentic self, not listening to our wisdom. And so it's got the Virgo energy. Then I was like, wow, I've recently seen cicadas. Where was it? It's like in a Chinese herbal remedy formula. They put cicadas in here, which at first I thought was, I've seen that formula, I had that formula. So I was like, oh my God, you know, it's kind of gross and beautiful at the same time. But I remembered what that formula, so Chinese herbal medicine, so all this Virgo stuff, I'm having an experience in the park, can you hear it? Of this energy. And what am I making myself available for by doing my footwork? That's Virgo. My next step, the thing that's in front of me, get to the park. I'm making way for Neptune. Spirit. Spirit was like showing me how these energies are expressing. They're always expressing right in front of me. My higher power, I go to the park all the time, I tell people all the time, my higher power seems to be living in that park. I always go there, you know, I do my meditation, I talk, I sing, I ground myself. When I was making way for my higher power to be in charge of the outcome, so I was making way for Neptune. And to show me examples of whatever. I wasn't going there thinking, I need to know what to talk about. I thought I had the talk ready. So I looked up, I reminded myself, like, well, what are cicadas used for Chinese medicine? So all this Virgo stuff could be Chinese medicine. It's for excess wind, Jupiter and Libra in the air sign, too much wind, and too much heat, Uranus and Uranus. So here's that relationship with the new moon, the cicadas, health and wellness, me needing to be dealing with what's right in front of me, this beautiful image of not just this chart, but the Scorpio energy in the life of a cicada. And this, I was like, when was the last time I saw this? Now this wasn't stuff I was trying to think of cool things to talk about. It was what was unfolding as I was in the park, taking full pictures and paying attention to what is it that I'm experiencing. And that is an example of one of the many ways, not just, oh my God, there was an earthquake, but there was all this stuff happening in my life in the park that I was supposed to pay attention to. And so I really want to be thinking about that, the 2 or 17 years underground, what skin do I need to be shedding? That's Scorpio energy. It's like, what do I need to let go of? Because again, Virgo, the secret is, I don't need to add anything to who I am. Scorpio is more about what do you need to subtract? What's getting in your way? What skin, what shell are you ready to emerge from? You know, what's really here? And it can all be healthy, natural, and kind of gradual if you keep after it. Uranus probably won't have to explode too many water bottles in your trunk if you're paying attention. Not too many guys get yelled at during traffic. That's what's really going on. But it's just like in that small way, I got to come back to my own life. and sometimes I think we underestimate how much the universe needs us to keep doing it. It needs me to be present, it needs y'all to be present. There's stuff probably happening right in front of you in your own life that can be gentle, loving ways to help you embrace your life and not despair and not focus on things that are too big or too global for you to be solving right now. And to remember, you do the footwork, there's a higher power, you're not it. You know, you have access to it, you're an expression of it, but sometimes it's like, okay, outcome, that's above my pay grade. You know, I'm not in charge of outcome. I have maybe a duty or an obligation to keep tuning in, keep taking care of myself, keep doing the next right thing. Do I have mess to clean up? Is there something to fix? But Uranus is like the extra messes, the goofy messes, the extraneous messes that happen when we're not paying attention to our intuition. And nobody's going to do it perfectly, so we're all going to have some of those, oh gosh, this mess is not 3 times as big because I'm not putting off or I didn't listen to my intuition. Does that make sense? That's just one way that I was like, oh, this energy really is expressing. It's right here in front of me. And it's in a very small, kind of seeming way, like, oh, bees at my feet, cicada skin on the tree, and there it is. And I got to be restored to sanity. You know, as some folks like to say, I was able to get rid of all the 18, which is going to be building. This energy was a 1 year numerologically, so the pace has been crazy fast.
Yeah.
Just absurdly fast. And there's been so much going on. And then the 2 years tend to be about building on and consolidating and continuing on with momentum that you've been trying to establish and begin and get underway in 2017. But there's some big stuff going on with that Saturn and Capricorn. And also, I want to invite you, if you have not already, I think it's really cool that Saturn currently is moving in a position where it accesses the center of the galaxy, with the wisdom that's there for us. We talked about that in the last talk this summer when we talked about the eclipse. The technical name for that is Saturn is conjunct the galactic center. Well, what does that mean? It means that Saturn's moving into the same part of the sky, the longitude, that the center of our galaxy occupies. So Saturn's kind of getting instructions, kind of beamed into it, and we all have Saturn somewhere in our chart in that degree, for, you know, some good alignment with bigger energy in the galaxy. We talked a lot about that. It's on the video that's on the website, and if you go to it, it'll tell you, you know, at what point, so you can queue up right to that part of the discussion. There's, you know, it describes like, oh, that happens at 1 hour and 6 minutes or whatever. So if you want to look at that, that's still going to be happening through November. So we're in touch with some powerful, stabilizing, useful energy that to help us make sense, make plans, and get in touch with our own integrity and our own wisdom in some big ways. Those things are also going on right now as well, because Saturn has been aligning with the galactic center and sending positive, more stabilizing energy to that Uranus that loves to be a trickster. And Saturn likes to have a plan. And it's like, okay, it's more serious. It has more discipline. It has more of a sense of purpose. It's not just about upsetting the apple cart, but, you know, building something. So we talked a lot more about that in our other discussions if you want to check that out as well. So thanks for coming out. I know I see sleepy faces. That's the challenge of doing these talks in the evening, as everybody's had a full day. So thank you. I appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.